Hey everybody! Welcome to Friday the 13th, the series. I'm your producer Robert.
And I'm your guest Josh.
And I'm your guest Stephanie.
And after a complete, spoiler-filled recap of the episode, we are going to discuss the show you either just learned existed or always wondered how it existed. We promise the answers will be few and far between because we're just here to have some goofity fun exploring a show that, despite or possibly even because of its faults, isn't good and isn't so bad it's good, but is still somehow oddly charming. Let's dive in, shall we? If you listened to our discussion of episode 14, Bedazzled, you met Stephen Yu, who provided the art for this podcast. Today, you'll meet the man responsible for this podcast's music, my brother Joshua Romeo, and his wife Stephanie. And really, who better to discuss an episode about the Asian immigrant experience than two Italians and a redhead? They've only seen a handful of episodes, and I've only seen the first 16, so we're flying blind and mostly criticizing something we don't know about. Our discussion will be intercut with my cheeky synopsis of the episode, then we'll reveal not two, but three of our favorite obscure products and/or services in Curio of the Week. Fair warning, we recorded that segment first, and it shows. In fact, it's almost shocking just how quickly the wheels come off. If you'd like to watch episode 16 before or after listening to this podcast, go to the Inner Demon Entertainment website, follow the YouTube link, and enjoy every episode of the 80s TV series for free, until such a time as the channel is taken down. Without further ado, on with the show. Episode 16, Tattoo. Well, punchy little title. It would tell us everything we need to know about this episode, except seeing those letters hover over an establishing shot of some Canadian city's Chinatown makes me realize this episode probably isn't centered around a tattoo parlor, and our protagonists probably won't be beefy white bikers. My reevaluation is confirmed inside a monochromatic set that answers the question, what if the Overlook Hotel had a Chinese restaurant? A game involving tiles and dice is being played by Tommy, wearing a suit 6 sizes too large, as was the style of the time. If you told me Tommy and his suit were the inspiration for the Turtle Club scene in Dana Carvey's Master of Disguise, I wouldn't bat an eye. Tommy's run of bad luck is being rubbed in his face by Hai Quan, this table's bad boy, hence the black leather jacket, button-down shirt with tie combination? Hey, it was the 80s. Even the wild ones were unabashedly corporate. To deflect from his losing streak, Tommy proffers that Hai must have lady luck on his side, and after mulling it over, Hai agrees. That's it. No retort, no clever twist. He just parrots Tommy's words back to him. You'll forgive me if I expected a trifle more. What this introduction to our protagonist and his crippling addiction really needed was the editing one would get if Darren Aronofsky reimagined Jacob's Ladder. So we cut first to Frank, Tommy's loan shark, watching from across the room, then to a table where a woman who probably works for the casino/restaurant conspicuously peers at a gambler's cards, then is never seen again. The shot of Frank wasn't necessary, but I can overlook it if the production didn't get enough coverage of Tommy and company, leaving the editor with few options. But the shots of the girl potentially cheating in what reads as a completely different casino/restaurant is pure, unadulterated filler that baffles and distracts from the story. On the subject of casinos/restaurants, what is this location? Every table is used for gambling, but Frank chases Tommy through the world's longest professional kitchen before his goon mashes Tommy's face into some char siu bao or something. For some reason, a most likely 80-yard line, Mr. Wong, is delivered while Tommy is face down in those barbecue buns. Tommy pleads that he has lots of expenses, then cites his grandfather and sister. Odd way to phrase that, in my humble opinion. Instead of threatening to break Tommy's knees, Frank Wong almost takes his thumb. Always thought that was more a Yakuza thing. Fortunately for Tommy, his gambling hand is left intact, but he only has 24 hours to repay his debt. Hey, remember that whole casino-restaurant debate from 2 seconds ago? Well, now Tommy has found its industrial warehouse wing, where, among pipes and wheels and analog control panels pilfered from Chernobyl, Tommy discovers Hai tattooing a scorpion onto the thigh of a woman dressed in white, including her wig, tied by cloth bindings to the ceiling of... I'm sorry, but I'm not even halfway through describing this madness, and I already need to take a breather. Yeah, Hai, from moments ago, is completing a detailed tattoo of a scorpion on a resistant subject he has fettered in the bowels of this Chinese restaurant? If this wasn't reality-shattering all on its own, there's the little issue of him admonishing her for moving, which only serves to highlight just how compliant she's actually being, and his decision to explain to his victim how his magic tattoo needles bring him good luck at the cost of someone's life. He tells her, "They let me win, and they let you win." And I do not understand the second half of that line. In what way does a sacrificial goat win? No time to ponder that, because the scorpion tattoo comes to life and, I'm sorry, I can only remember this thing as a scorpion and must constantly be reminded it's actually some large insect I cannot identify. Once again, the editing vexes me as we intercut between Tommy watching this captive lady struggle and die, and Hai receiving a stack of cash at the gaming table. In the interest of good sportsmanship, I'll ignore how quickly Hai returns to the table, places a bet, and wins, to focus on the issue that we only cut to him once, and it's while the bug is crawling and the victim very much alive. Ideally, you'd want to cut back and forth a few times, maybe with Hai looking nervous or even stalling, culminating with back-to-back shots of the girl dying and Hai winning. Notice, a moment ago, I said we see him receive a stack of cash, not the moment he wins. It's enough to get the message across, but it's stress testing the lower threshold of the Kuleshov effect. To quote Jack Black, "You passed the test, okay? But barely. You know what you got? F+. It turns out the girl was actually built by the Weyland-Yutani Corporation, as upon her death, she spits out a viscous, milky liquid. After careful deliberation, Tommy decides this all checks out, and with no further questions, arrives at the conclusion the sensible thing to do is murder Hai. Fortunately for Tommy, Hai does what most of us would do after winning a fat stack of cash: smoke a cigarette alone down a long, dark alley outside the casino. Apparently, the luck conferred by the cursed tattoo needles doesn't extend beyond the gaming table, because Hai caught one unfortunate break, with Tommy first seeing his entire murder ritual, then knifing him outside the restaurant. Tommy heads straight to Lum Chen Herbal Medicine, the proprietor of which is his previously mentioned grandfather, Lum Chen, played by legendary actor Key Luke, whom you would know as the owner of the curio shop in Gremlins, and whose career spans back to the 1930s. Lum Chen lays into Tommy about his addiction. Tommy asserts that Frank Wong once lost $10,000 in a single game, which has the knock-on effect of revealing Tommy's admiration for his loan shark, something I don't believe I've ever seen in this kind of story. Moments later, and I can't believe I'm saying this, the theme of the U.S. immigrant experience is explored when Tommy asserts that, in America, the only shame is to lose. Well, that was deeper than I expected. Good on you, Friday. Tommy heads to the bathroom to wash the murder blood off his hand, passing the scene to his sister, Linda Chen. The family drama deepens when she attempts to defend Tommy, only to be rebuffed by Lum Chen, informing her Tommy takes after his father, Lum Chen's son, whom he describes as fruit that rotted on the branch. Wow, there is some generational trauma at work here, and enough material for a season of television. No surprise then, we're almost 11 minutes in and still haven't seen hide nor hair of our principal cast. With Tommy still in the bathroom, Lum Chen discovers the case for the tattoo needles has been branded with a Louis Vendredi Antiques sticker. Who does that? Or is the case not part of the antique? Honestly, I'm so impressed the writers remembered the show's lore well enough to have it read that, and not Curious Goods. I don't really care about the sticker's presence. Speaking of curious goods, we finally encounter our troika, with some Asian curios serving as a thematic bridge between our heroes and our story thus far. Jack speaks with Lum Chen on the phone, offering to buy back the needles, and getting the address, right up until Tommy hangs up on his grandfather's behalf. Well, Lum Chen represents not one, but two Friday Firsts. He has the skill set to recognize a cursed object when he sees one, and he proactively attempts to return it. Friday, you never cease to surprise. And this time, I mean that as a compliment. Tommy isn't having it, referring to the Needles as his life, with the same conviction as Obi-Wan talking to Anakin about his lightsaber, then backfisting Lum Chen, which happens organically based on how they're wrestling for the Needles. But their proximity means he needed to throw his pimp slap almost vertically, and he opted for closed fist, which practically makes it a palm-facing out uppercut. The point is, it's awkward, made more awkward by the fact he holds the pose after his grandfather hits the ground. The man's 60, Tommy. That wasn't the fatality you seem to think it was. All right, brother. So, how do we know each other?
Well, we've been brothers for 43 and a half years, roughly.
Solid response.
Ever since I was born.
And Stephanie, I met you when you married my brother.
Yeah, that was a while ago.
Feels like you were there since the beginning. So I'm going to ask some questions that might seem obvious or like I should know the answer, and maybe I should, but I think we're going to find I probably actually don't. With that being the case, when and how did you two discover horror?
I think I've always liked the Munsters and the Addams Family and Twilight Zone, but then I always strayed away from heavier horror or scarier stuff because that's so intense.
I never saw any of the gorier stuff, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, but I remember being fascinated by the Freddy Krueger cardboard cutout of him by a burnt baby carriage, just grim, but they had that at the video rental place we used to go to all the time when I was a kid.
Yeah, Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child. That was indelibly burned into my brain as well.
Yeah.
Glad I'm not the only one.
Wow, Josh, I didn't know it was so intense, the beginning for you.
Yeah, I don't remember being afraid of it or anything. I just thought, wow, this is intense.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I wasn't afraid of it. I was kind of intrigued by it, but it was definitely something that made an impression. Josh, you were never as big a fan of the Twilight Zone as I was, were you?
I never got into it enough to want to independently watch the whole series or several episodes or anything on my own.
And same with Addams Family or the Munsters, right?
I'd maybe watch some of Addams Family or Munsters, but I wasn't quite as obsessive as Gilligan's Island.
Really?
Yeah, I loved it for some reason.
Wow.
It's mildly shocking to me. The questions being like, so, is it true that you never fully watched these episodes? And then it's like, oh no, traitor.
There's no judgment here, Josh.
Oh, good.
That's cool that you like the Munsters and the Addams Family. How did you watch those growing up? Were your parents watching them and you just joined in, or did you seek them out on your own?
Just sought them out on my own. I don't know what type of TV service we had, but it had oldies station.
Was it Nick at Night, maybe?
I think it was like Boomerang TV, if that even sounds familiar.
It doesn't. Not to me. I'm not familiar with that.
I've heard of it, and classic shows is their focus.
Well, the name does seem apt. Did you watch The Outer Limits?
Probably. I can't remember any names of things. I have bad memory. But I'm pretty sure I've actually watched every single episode of The Twilight Zone because the full series was on Netflix at one point later on, and I methodically went through the whole thing.
Then you are actually ahead of me because I'm only still finally filling in those gaps and working my way through it.
Oh, nice.
Have you seen any of the Addams Family movies, and or are you watching Wednesday on Netflix?
Okay, this is kind of a sore point for me because the old Addams Family movies, I saw the first one and I was just so appalled because it was nothing like the TV series to me. The whole tone and everything was different and I hated it.
I don't consider it canon. Yeah, I can't imagine you going on to the second if that was your feeling about the first one.
No, I think I only saw part of the second one, but yeah, they were abhorrent to me.
If you two had to pick any favorite horror movies or comics, books, games, etc., what would you pick, if anything?
What was that game where they're like, come back? I don't know if that's horror at all. But there's like a video game that's that. But yeah, babe, what do you like?
Well, you're talking about the seventh guest there.
Yeah.
Stop calling it you to come back when you exit.
Yeah.
That is one of the few horror things that I think I particularly took to. I thought that the Pet Sematary movie that we saw,
The John Lithgow Pet Sematary.
I liked that one.
Wait, really? I didn't realize you liked it.
It was dark, but it was interesting.
Now, did you two watch that because it has pets/animals in it, and you two were both pet lovers, or was that more of a Halloween thing, or both?
I think it was because it was around Halloween.
Yeah. I had seen it previously with friends and wanted to show Josh it for some reason. But
Wow, you've seen it twice. Does it get better the second time?
you know, it got a little darker the second time.
Have you ever seen the original, Stephanie? Or have you read the book?
No.
That's actually one where I've read the book, but I've never seen any of the movies.
Was the book good?
It was. I can be a little hard on Stephen King sometimes, but I do remember that as being a very good book.
Oh, that's cool. yeah, that might be a good read.
And Josh, other than Seventh Guest, do either of you play any horror games?
I did like Resident Evil 2 when that was new.
Also Resident Evil 4, or not really? That's the one everyone considers a classic.
I've only played the first introductory area of it and never serious enough to continue playing it, but it seemed like it was a great game, well made, and I probably would have liked it if I had taken the time or do at some point.
You are a fan of Doom.
Well, that's true, yeah. That is sort of horror themed. It's supposed to be eerie and spooky and have you jumpy at times, yeah.
It's hell. It's demons from hell.
Well, it's kind of the epitome of horror then, I guess.
Yes, and you're kind of a fan to the point of making your own levels.
Also true, yes.
You are the king of understatement, my dude.
I just like the biggest thing in horror, that's all.
I barely got a yes out of you when asked directly if you like Doom. I mean, not to the point of having watched the movie with The Rock, but still.
Or is that being a huge fan of it and not wanting to ruin it?
Not wanting to sully it. For both of you now, what was your knowledge of Friday the 13th, the series, prior to the podcast?
Mine was pretty minimal. I knew it was a long series. It had crossovers with Nightmare on Elm Street. I knew that the first movie, spoiler alert, was not actually Jason Voorhees.
Well, I love the fact that you gave a nice, complete answer for that as opposed to Doom, but the question was, what was your knowledge of Friday the 13th, the series, meaning the television show, not the series of movies?
I did not know there was a Friday the 13th television series, despite the fact that it aired on network TV apparently when I would have been about the prime age to want to watch it. I did not actually find out that it existed until you told me just maybe 2 years ago.
You think you would have watched this when you were a kid?
Well, especially if I knew what it was like, that it wasn't actually gory and all that scary. Just generally spooky, I guess, and supernatural. I think I would have definitely been comfortable watching it, and yeah, I would have definitely been interested in seeing what it was like, and probably would have discovered, oh, I like this.
For you at the time, the fact that it isn't related to the movies would have actually been a feature, not a bug.
Yeah, I'd say so.
And how about you, Stephanie?
When I first heard of it through you, possibly through Josh, I thought it was about the movies. And I was like, whoa, how are you going to do a podcast on just a handful of movies?
What about Friday the 13th, the series, would make you think this had anything to do with the Friday the 13th movies?
Wait, is that sarcasm or are you serious? I can't tell.
That's sarcasm.
Thank you.
Have you two seen episodes 1 through 16?
We've seen the first 5 or maybe 6, and then episode 16.
I remember hearing about it growing up, but I don't remember a single advertisement on television. I don't ever remember walking into a room and it was on. I had somehow heard about it and always wondered how on earth they could possibly do a show based on that property. I think pretty quickly I learned that it wasn't about the movies, but that just raised more questions.
Maybe you were looking through one of the TV guides that came in the Sunday paper.
You want to explain to our younger viewers what that was?
Current events were printed with ink onto paper, and then within those, there was a week-by-week guide that described what would be on television at various times, and very brief summaries.
You're right, there was information in the newspaper. I'm thinking of the little digest-sized book that you would buy separately.
Well, that's right, yeah, if you wanted more detailed information about TV shows, then yeah, there was that too. You could subscribe and get more information about the upcoming shows for the week or month or whenever it was published.
Or buy them at the supermarket, right? Or newsstands.
Yeah, they had them on the newsstand racks with all the magazines.
You did buy them, right? They weren't free, were they?
No, they cost money.
Stephanie, do you remember those? Or were those just a little bit before your time?
I do. We didn't really have fancy TV like that growing up. And so I remember going over to other people's houses and being like, what is this miniature novel? And it just looking like a lot of annoying information. I was disturbed by it.
You like to be surprised when you watch television? You prefer Russian roulette?
Too many choices, you know.
What about Tales from the Dark Side?
I don't even remember hearing about it.
That was also an anthology network show. I said network. And now after all those Jeremiah episodes, I'm doubting myself about everything. But mostly, was it network or was it syndicated or... Anyway, that was another anthology horror show that would play in the afternoons. And I remember that coming on. I remember the intro and a little bit of the music. That was one I was a little more familiar with, whereas somehow I just never came across Friday the 13th, the series, as far as I remember.
I did hear about Tales from the Crypt, I think only when the movie was released.
Tales from the Crypt was definitely in the zeitgeist, and there was even a Nightmare on Elm Street TV series hosted by Freddy.
I never heard about that either.
What, if anything, would you two compare Friday the 13th, the series, to?
Wow, that is a good question.
If you like the horror genre as much as we do, you can preview the horror comic book Requiem for a Psychopath right now for free at the Inner Demon Entertainment website. Imagine a world in which horror film slashers are real. Then imagine a troubled teen bringing one out of retirement to help him take revenge on his bullies. It was written by me and drawn by friend of the show, Stephen Yu. Again, that's Requiem for a Psychopath on the Inner Demon Entertainment website. And if you dig it, please either review and rate it 5 stars on Amazon, or don't rate and review it at all. Ratings of less than 5 stars send the algorithm into murder mode for some reason. Thanks. I hope you enjoy it. Picking up right where we left off, Linda discovers Lum Chen on the ground and learns of the tattoo needles, dragging her deeper into the plot. Cut to Tommy on his way to... Wait, is Tommy in this shot and I'm just not seeing him? No, it's just more stock footage of a Chinatown we already know exists. Kinda weird not sticking with our characters this late in the game, especially since the production already took the time to film Tommy on the street, but B-unit footage it is. In an opium den, oh god. A female addict in a traditional Chinese dress uses a hollow bamboo rod to get high, and I can't not think of the Italian image and sound filter from the Devilfish episode of MST3K transitioning from vague stereotype to warning, ethnic slur. I guess I harbor unrealistic expectations vis-a-vis opium dens, but I'm a little alarmed that Tommy is free to waltz in, tear this woman's dress up to her armpit, then tattoo a tarantula onto her abdomen. I'm not saying anyone would stop him. I guess I'm just surprised no one investigates what the hell he's actually doing. I mean, you might have front row seats to Banksy's latest opus, for all you know. Lum Chen tells Mickey, Ryan, and Jack that a robber stole the tattoo needles, but our dubious trio suspect there's something deeper going on. Not much humor here, I'm afraid. The scene is well framed, lit, written, and acted. Honestly, if you stripped out the tattoo needles of the damned, this episode would be a poignant and tragic drama about an immigrant so desperate for respect by his adoptive country, it drives him to addiction and financial ruin. Truly, that squandered potential is the greatest tragedy of all. Friday, did you hear my previous editing criticism and course correct? I ask because this time we intercut more than once between Tommy and his victim, with Tommy checking his watch and expressing some concern enough time has elapsed for the girl to be dead and his luck to have changed. The sequence even climaxes with the woman's death and Tommy winning. I mean, how we got from an opium den to a gaming table that quickly is insanity, but hell, maybe this den of iniquity is also in the restaurant, 2 doors down from the industrial warehouse. Let's take a moment to posit the question this actress was probably too reluctant to ask on set. Since she isn't bound, why doesn't she make any effort to swat away the tarantula crawling ever so slowly up her body? Because she's high on opium, right? Well, she sees the spider and reacts with fear. When actors ask, what does my character want in this scene? Often, this is exactly what they're talking about. The director probably realized it would be boring to watch a spider crawl up someone who wasn't reacting, so he directed her to show fear, even though she'd been in an opium-induced coma until 2 seconds ago. Now she's afraid, but not afraid enough to react. It doesn't make sense, so the actor doesn't believe it, and therefore can't portray it. At its core, acting is a form of lying, and as every good liar knows, once you make yourself believe the lie, the rest is just telling the truth. Since Tommy only games at the same casino/restaurant, or casinorant, where his loan shark resides, he is soon accosted and stripped of all but $10. Okay, so I'm thinking we're meant to infer that each death is only good for one payout? Fine. But earlier, High implied he had been taking Tommy's money all night long. Was he winning legitimately, or is there a pile of white-clad bodies somewhere in that warehouse? But if that isn't the case, why doesn't Tommy keep playing until he has enough to repay Frank? My first time watching, I assumed he had, which made the next moment, in which Frank seizes on his opportunity to reclaim at least some of what he's owed, very confusing. There is no actual gambling in this gambling episode. We just see payouts and are told Tommy loses a lot. We also never learn how much Frank is owed, so we're never sure how close Tommy is to repaying him. As a result, at first, I thought Tommy and Frank were square, right up until Frank says if Tommy won such a fat stack in one sitting, he should have no problem paying him back. Didn't he just do that? Apparently not. Instead, after Tommy again expresses admiration for Frank and even asks to work for him, Frank returns $10 that Tommy is now supposed to turn into the balance of what he owes. Before we move on, I noticed Frank has changed clothes for some reason, going from almost all whites to almost all black. This story has all happened over one night, so I can't justify Frank's change of wardrobe. And hang on, Tommy has also changed. And no, it isn't a case of him ditching his murder clothes, as he was still wearing them when he assaulted his grandfather and ran off. This change happened at either the opium den or here at the casino-rant. In order to get the scoop on Tommy's gambling addiction and likely status as possessor of the haunted curio, Ryan the Lion had to buy a crate of exotic food that creeps out Mickey, so check that stereotype off your bingo card. At Lum Chen's, Tommy discovers both his bedridden grandfather and the damage done to his face, and inexplicably offers him a stack of cash as both justification and compensation. Well, where did that come from? He left with $10. It is morning. Did he kill a bunch of women off screen? If he did, why isn't this blood money going to Frank? What is Tommy thinking? And it's night again. So, much like the time-traveling vampire story, episode 13, The Baron's Bride, an entire day's events can be replaced with a title card that says, Scene Missing. No time to ponder, because Mickey, Ryan, and Jack have staked out Lum Chen's apothecary. Wait, I'm sorry. That's what made sense to me when I wrote it, but upon reviewing the footage, I now realize they just happened to roll up at the exact moment Tommy stepped out. Well, how serendipitous. Only now, almost exactly halfway through the episode, do our protagonists encounter Tommy for the first time, and even at this stage, they really only consider him a person of interest. This is doubly interesting given that our heroes also spent the previous episode, 15, Vanity's Mirror, a few steps behind the antagonist, and in that case, ultimately failed by most metrics. Hot on Tommy's tail, Ryan the Lion manages to bump into a casino-rant patron. As is always the case, it serves no purpose, and I'm calling it. I think Ryan the Lion will bump into an extra each time he's tailing someone in every episode after this. Call it a crystal ball freebie. Also, we must be at the penumbra between the restaurant transitioning into a casino, because the patrons all seem to be sitting at empty tables, neither gambling nor eating. Future filmmakers, take note. It's a subtle way to make your scene feel unnatural and creepy. Now it's Ryan's turn to lurk in the shadows of this oddly placed industrial warehouse as Tommy tattoos a demon hand across the entire chest of a young man who instantly bought in on the premise of a lucky tattoo needle and just plumb wanted to see how it works. It's also where the show covers its tracks and explains that the needle provides its user with artistic ability and a knowledge of how to use it. I think this character is named AJ, played by Von Flores, but he isn't referred to by name in the episode, so I'm relying on IMDb. I am cognizant of the fact I keep complaining about how quickly characters arrive at the gaming tables after tattooing someone, and this is where the show gets its revenge. After being told to wait until the tattoo ink dries, AJ does. We just kind of watch him kill time for a bit as Tommy leaves. Then we actually spend almost 25 seconds observing Tommy cross a substantially more crowded casino-rant to join a game in progress. Well, congratulations, Friday, you got me. Both ways are wrong. I guess you win. Mickey and Jack conclude an unsuccessful tete-a-tete with the Chens over tea, but out of fear for Tommy's safety, Lindy confides in Mickey where Tommy gambles. So off they go to the place they would have found anyway if they just stuck with Ryan, or, confronted Tommy in the street instead of tailing him. And Mr. Chen, I realize you've given up on Tommy, but nobody is trying to reform him, they're just trying to get the needles back. Also, he's killing people. Maybe you could be a little more helpful for the good of others? Ryan the Lion stumbles on the corpse of the woman in white, which Hai apparently just stashed in this warehouse. More skittish around corpses than I would have expected by this point in the show, Ryan stumbles out of hiding and is accosted by AJ, who suddenly turns aggro, demanding Ryan explain his presence. Instead, Ryan indicates the dead girl, and AJ reaches the only natural conclusion. Ryan is attempting to steal the secret of the luck. It's both ridiculous and completely fair, given that's exactly how Tommy learned about the needles and what he did immediately after. But AJ doubles down on his insanity, suggesting Ryan killed the girl to keep her quiet. You mean the girl you haven't even seen yet with your own whoa, sidekick out of nowhere? Ryan doubles over in agony, and you just know he's thinking, not fair, I wasn't in my stance. In a lucky break for the stud coordinator, Ryan the Lion is wearing a black leather jacket and disappears entirely into the shadows, making it look like AJ is fighting the Invisible Man. Somehow, Ryan gives as good as he gets and lands a solid sidekick of his own, sending AJ sprawling onto a club-length hunk of 2x4? It's true what they say. Some people are born lucky, and some people are Ryan the Lion.
I think it really reminds me a lot of Warehouse 13, which is a more recent shit. Well, no, it's not recent at all anymore, is it?
Hang on, you've seen Warehouse 13.
I loved Warehouse 13, yeah.
Warehouse 13 comes up all the time in these episodes when I'm going through the cast and their filmographies, because so many actors from Friday the 13th, the series, worked on an episode of Warehouse 13 at some point.
Wow.
You're the first person I've talked to that's actually watched it. Please, regale us. What exactly is that show?
Well, it's really similar to Friday the 13th because it's basically just a warehouse instead of an adorable antique-looking shop full of a ton of boxes. Like, was that Indiana Jones style?
The end of Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah. So it's like a huge warehouse like that, and then there's all these cursed or weird items that they put in it, and then there's the male-female head people where there's like weird flirting, but they're not cousins.
Oh, thank God.
And they go out and find things.
Thank God.
Yeah.
How did they come to be the proprietors of the warehouse?
Oh my gosh, I have no idea, actually. Josh, do you know? Have you seen it?
I've seen a few seasons of it, but no, I don't remember. I thought they were just maybe a special secret division within the government.
Wait, you've seen a few seasons? I thought that sentence was going to end with, I've seen a few episodes. You've seen a few seasons, but you're not sure.
No, yeah, Dad watched it pretty regularly for a while, and I was still living in the house, so I probably saw a couple seasons worth of it.
I'm sorry, our father watched it?
Yeah, I would assume like anything else that he's watched, he probably saw the whole run of it.
Yeah, that tracks. I'll have to have him on as a guest at some point. Or that could be my spin-off podcast, Warehouse 13.
Yes, do it.
Have either of you two ever watched The X-Files or maybe Supernatural?
I've only seen a couple episodes of X-Files, and for some reason the movie, because I was visiting a friend one summer and his family liked it a lot, so we all went to see that.
Well, you laugh, but oddly I'm in the same boat. I don't know why I didn't watch the show religiously, since it seems written specifically for me, but I've only seen a couple episodes, and then I chose to go to theaters and watch the movie with almost no context.
Wow, that is surprising then.
As soon as you movietized it, I'm there. Am I too hard on Friday the 13th, the series?
I think you're fair.
Yeah, I think objectively I've made the same observations on my own that you have. There's some kind of absurdities with it, from the weird will they, won't they sexual tension dynamic that they decided to apply to characters that are cousins that easily could have not been, or just where things are in time and space, how people get to where they are and why we don't get to see anything suggesting that that's happening.
Yeah, that was certainly an issue on the last episode, and I know you had that issue with this episode. I do too.
As well as the permissions that the main character Tommy seems to have in going where he wants to, when he wants to. There's not really an excuse given for how he gets there and why no one stops him.
Yeah, no, that is definitely the case, and
I did come up with a theory for it, though, when I was at work the other day.
Yeah.
great. Well, let's dive into the episode.
I'm convinced that because he's lost so much money at the casino, that Tommy has become a silent partner in the ownership group that owns that casino. And as an owner, no one questions why he's there or where he's going there.
Oh, is that how having a gambling problem works in your mind?
Yep. You can go in after closing, go to the back room whenever you want. It doesn't matter. You own the place.
You just fail upwards into being part of the organization? That's what you're positing?
Yeah.
They go from threatening you to breaking your thumbs to breaking your kneecaps to making you CEO.
Yeah.
Well, that being the case, what stands out the most to you?
The huge bodyguard dude, that bodyguard guy is 100% in an episode of MASH as like the bouncer pimp dude. I thought that was really neat.
Wait, did you actually look that up on IMDb or something? Or are you just saying that?
I tried, but we couldn't confirm it because it seems he's not credited in Friday the 13th.
100% though, I would bet my life.
Okay, I will. It might be pretty difficult to track down an uncredited character on an obscure episode of MASH to do a side-by-side.
It's okay, you know what? No need to look it up. Just trust me.
Did you two have any feelings about Tommy wearing David Byrne's suit from the Stop Making Sense tour?
Oh yeah, that it's several sizes too big for him.
You could have fit 3 Tommies in that suit. I feel for the wardrobe department. I'm sure they were doing the best they could with what they were given, but, whew, man, swing and a miss.
Yeah, I'm going to chalk that up to Tommy admires Frank for being a big man, and the only way to be a big man is to dress like a big man.
Which conversely makes it look like you're 5 years old. I don't know about you, but my first time and space disassociation happened at the gaming table in the Chinese restaurant. Tommy's having some seriously bad luck, and there's a guy at the table, Hai Quan, I think is the character's name, although he's never referred to by name, so I have to do a little bit of guessing here.
I started calling him Lucky Gambler when I made notes about this.
Fair enough.
That became his name to me.
Yeah, it made it real dicey trying to look up information about the cast, given how few of the characters are named and how few of the actors have photos on IMDb. I'm doing some real guesswork here. My apologies if I get anyone confused, but he's on a hot streak. And he makes a comment about Lady Luck being on his side. Okay, fine. Little campy, but perfectly cromulent for the show. And then he kind of hugs the girl who's standing next to him. At the time, I just thought, oh, that's his girlfriend. But then we cut away to Frank and his goon. And then we cut from that to I don't know where. Everything is suddenly white, whereas the other shots were of a restaurant that's incredibly red. And we see a girl who's dressed similar but a little bit different than the girl that Hai just hugged. And she's looking at the cards of some guys gambling like she's cheating, which made me think that that's the Lady Luck that Hai was referring to, that he's actually part of the house and they have a system set up to cheat certain people. But none of that is true. I think it's just a cutaway to these people playing an entirely different game we never see again.
I did notice one of the women looking at the cards, and I thought, okay, so there's some cheating going on, which was not at all the case.
I don't know why it's here. Not only do we see the girl clearly looking at cards, but then we even see an insert shot, something roughly from her point of view of the cards the guy's holding, and it doesn't pay off in any way that I can discern.
It was like just some padding that was thrown in the middle of more relevant scenes.
Yes, padding, a word I use all the time when talking about this show.
And it would have made more sense to like establish the setting beforehand, but not where it was placed.
Yeah, and then throwing me even more is that this girl in black that Hai hugs, at first I thought she was unique. And then we cut to that other girl. She's dressed very similar to this first girl. Based on this and other shots, I think these girls work in the restaurant. I'm guessing they're hostesses or let's just say part of the hospitality.
Yeah, that's the impression I got. They all look like they have kind of a rock or punk look or sort of goth. It's just black and then their hair kind of spiked a little bit or has points to it. It's not down or kind of flat looking.
Was it a brown thing with points, to quote Buster?
I was thinking about that the other day. Buster Bluth would see them and think, I see a brownish area with points.
So there was a moment when I was confused between this girl and the other girl. That probably makes me look pretty bad, but I swear, they're dressed the same. They have the same makeup job. They have very similar hair, and they just cut between these two very quickly after seemingly implying that the first girl was important. So I thought we were seeing her cheat elsewhere, like perhaps we jumped in time and we're just establishing that she cheats, and then we're meant to make the connection that she's helping Hai, but I don't think any of that is true.
Doesn't seem to be.
Stephanie, you've been quiet for a while. What do you got for us?
And I was looking more at like what the clothes were and all of that, so honestly I didn't notice a whole lot of this part.
Well, please, dish.
Another thing that stood out to me about this was those women all seem to have a theme in how they're dressed, but then I think the next woman that appears, the first victim, doesn't match that whatsoever, which makes you wonder, who is that and where did she come from?
Literally the opposite.
Yeah.
She's wearing all white and has a white wig on.
My theory is that she was set up for a different film, and then they just popped her in there.
That's as plausible as anything I can come up with.
Would have made a lot more sense if it was the woman who was at the table with the guy that I'm going to continue calling Lucky Gambler, and he patted her on the side thinking, I know how I'm going to win my next hand, but that wasn't the case.
What do you think about their wardrobe, Stephanie?
Just like kind of the punkish rock type look I thought was an interesting choice, and then for women who were there to be enticing, I feel like they could have done better jobs at making their outfits enticing.
Not enticing enough. Okay, not a criticism I was expecting, but we'll take it.
Yeah.
Some shows have a monster of the week. This series has a curio of the week, and so do we. Josh, what is your curio of the week?
My curio of the week is called St. Paul Guitar Repair. As the name suggests, it's a guitar repair center, but they can also do upgrade projects, and they even build their own custom instruments.
Have you ever bought a guitar from them before?
No, I've not purchased a guitar from them, but I have had upgrades done to one of my basses. Why did I say it like that?
Wait, what are you laughing at? The way you put the emphasis on your own words?
The way I said one of my basses.
Right. Where in the human language does it say you put the emphasis on in July?
Yeah, on my. That actually kind of works, emphasizing my as in they didn't build one, it was one of mine.
Yeah, that's probably what you were thinking. Don't overthink it. There's probably a reason why you said it that way. Which guitar was that they worked on?
Let's try that again.
Which of your guitars did they work on? You have a lot of guitars, man.
That was I don't remember the exact model.
Okay.
I'll just go with the vague details.
That's fine.
It's a Fender Precision, so I mean that's enough as what series, because they always change their series names over time. I don't know, but I'll just go with the generals.
Okay, but I can't use that, so let me. So which of your mini guitars did they work on?
It was my white Fender Precision bass. Slapped on a red tortoiseshell pickguard, some new pickups, new potentiometers, a capacitor for the tone. It's great.
They added some speed holes to make the guitar go faster.
Exactly.
How many times have you been there?
At least 4 times.
Where exactly are they located?
They're in St. Paul off of, I believe it is 5.
To specify for a wider audience, that's St. Paul, Minnesota?
Yeah, they're in St. Paul, Minnesota off of State Highway 5.
You're giving the directions a little bit like a local advertisement for Calgore Pizza located next to the Blockbuster.
If you've reached the Trip gas station, you've gone too far.
Yeah, exactly. Turn a right at the 3rd covered bridge. You're speaking to a global audience, but you're giving directions like you're on a local news broadcast from 1983. They have a website. Are they on social media?
Yes, they do have a website.
Do you have it? I'm sorry to ask the world of you.
Probably will need to do that again.
Your phrasing was fine, but would you care to share? I'm sorry I asked the world of you, but would you like to save these good people the trouble of Googling it themselves and just tell them what the website is?
Yes, I have got it up right now, so I'm all ready to say it.
Come on, Kramer. Why don't you just tell me the name of the movie you want to see?
Their web address is stpaulguitarrepair.com.
Are they on Facebook, Instagram, X, formerly known as Twitter?
Yeah, they're on Facebook, and they have a YouTube channel.
Oh, that's interesting. You know what kind of videos they put out on there?
I'm looking at it right now. They've got 5 different videos, tutorials, I think, about some of the basics of how to maintain your own instrument and considerations to make when considering whether you need to come in for services.
I would think they would put out videos of them working on guitars.
Yeah, that is what they have up there after all. Yep.
What do you like about them versus other guitar shops you've been to over the years?
The turnaround time and the variety of things that they can do. Like if you take it into Guitar Center or someplace, they'll send it away, take some time.
Whereas they do everything in-house?
Yeah.
I feel a place like this probably keeps some very specific hours. Does that seem correct?
See, Monday to Friday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m., Friday and Saturday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., and they are closed Sunday.
Coupled with a quick turnaround time, that's pretty reasonable. Thanks for giving them a shout out.
No problem.
Stephanie, what is your curio of the week?
My curio of the week is something that I've never actually been to yet, but I'm kind of obsessed with it. It's called Aquashella, this huge aquarium and aquatic art expo that travels around the U.S., and one of their biggest shows is in Chicago. Imagine a mix between a fish convention, an art festival, and a light show, like glowing coral tanks, massive aquascapes, rare tropical fish, and crazy colorful lighting everywhere. It's supposed to be this total sensory overload in the best possible way. Yeah. Everyone in the aquarium world, from like freshwater and saltwater hobbyists to artists, YouTubers, and people who just love beautiful setups, they all go there. So even if you don't have a fish tank, you can still have fun because the whole thing's like walking around through a living art expo. And I've been following it online for years. People post these amazing videos of glowing jellyfish tanks and aquascapes that look like tiny underwater forests. So every time I see it, I think, these are my people.
And it just travels from city to city around the country?
Yeah, pretty much. They have some staple locations that they seem to keep going to each year. But last year they didn't even go to Chicago, but like Chicago's one of the big ones. But yeah, they went to New Jersey last year and like Dallas or Los Angeles. So they'll kind of go all around.
Do you happen to know what their website is or any of their social media handles?
Their website is just aquashella.com. Ooh, they have Instagram. Just finding this out.
We're doing it live.
It's Aquashella Aquarium Festival is their Instagram. They are also on Facebook. Oh, they have YouTube.
This curio is just the gift that keeps on giving.
It is. Their Facebook is also just called Aquashella Aquarium Festival. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say the YouTube's the same, but let me check. Oh, snap. Nope, YouTube is just Aquashella.
That's why we measure twice and cut once.
Yeah.
My curio of the week is the music of The Cars. Full disclaimer, I know nothing about music. Want proof? Growing up, my music collection was comprised entirely of soundtracks and stand-up comedy albums. Of course, Dennis Leary's No Cure for Cancer counts as music. It's on a CD, isn't it? Honestly, why would anyone listen to the radio when they could listen to Steve Martin's A Wild and Crazy Guy for the 50th straight time? I'm not sure how I even got my hands on a copy of The Cars' Complete Greatest Hits, although I suspect it has something to do with previous guest, TV's Matt, and I definitely wasn't expecting much from a band I was pretty sure I had never heard of. So I started each song expecting it to be the one I would skip, and next thing I knew, I had finished the album and replayed it from the top. Want upbeat music for a road trip? How about The Cars? Want a party playlist adults will enjoy that's safe for all ages? Might I suggest The Cars? Want some 80s nostalgia that isn't all the overplayed classics from recent film and TV soundtracks? My recommendation? The Cars. Both fresh and accessible, I firmly believe you can be a music lover or a filthy casual and still fall in love with this band. Hey, we actually got around to discussing the episode. For this podcast, that's progress. And so far, I don't think we've offended anyone. Except, of course, grammar pedants who will be quick to point out I said a character was dressed similar, when I should have said she was dressed similarly. I hope you can find it in your heart to forgive me. After all, let he who hasn't confused adjectives with adverbs cast the first stone. Josh and Stephanie will return next time to continue our discussion of this baffling and problematic episode, and we'll all make some doom predictions in the segment that was a bad idea from the start, Crystal Ball. I hope you'll join us. Thanks for listening, everyone. We know you have a lot of options when choosing a Friday the 13th the Series podcast, and we sincerely thank you for choosing ours. Special thanks to Joshua Romeo for original music and to Stephen Yu for original art. And be sure to check out the Joe on Joe podcast, the only podcast where Joe Schlepsky discusses G.I. Joe. If you want to support our show, you can leave a review and rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. If you want an occasional update on our projects, you can sign up for our newsletter at the Inner Demon Entertainment website. And if you want to complain about social media with us on social media, you can find links on our website. And always remember what Carl said to Frylock. It don't matter. None of this matters. Good night, everybody.